So we had the owner of Fortune Manning, which is a large, very large law firm here in New Zealand. So part owner from them. And in typical fashion, having a commercial lawyer with his experience, I talked very little about commercial law. We talked about wearing bibs in court, cheese, flies, corporates, profit gouging. It went all over the show, but I think he's a very eloquent, very relatable, and I think the biggest lesson I got from it was, irrespective of your success, if you have humility, you consistently pursue passions, then positive things will happen, not just for yourself, but for your business. So, yeah. Let me know what you think, team. All right, well, this is a random podcast where it can go anywhere.
Okay.
I think, just to help set the scene, a lot of people, like, who is this man? What does this man do? Why is he here? So what is it that you do? How would you sum up your life at the moment?
Well, right now I'm a partner at Fortune Manning. I've been with Fortune Manning for about 15 years. So one of the owners of Fortune Manning. Fortune Manning's a full-service law firm. Apart from sort of real hardcore criminal work, we do most other things. But I've always been a litigator. And in recent times, I've seen that in the last 5 years, about 70% of my work has become commercial advice work, because we try and put fires out before they ignite. So I call myself a litigator, but I'm always giving business advice, reviewing contracts, setting up companies, and doing all those things. I'm here because I got a call from you. And I was like, who is this guy? I had to Google you and see if this was legit. Did not see the first 10 results because those are usually jacked up.
Damn it. So you went to page 2.
Yeah. So kept looking because it looked a bit too good initially, because I just put Ryan and Jay Melton over there and everything's coming up all nicely. This seems like a setup.
Yeah, it is.
I thought, no, let's do it.
Brave man. Yeah, I never thought of page 2. Well, fortunately, there's no public scandals yet, so that's good. I'm doing all right.
Well, let's touch wood.
Touch wood.
Let's not start one today.
Yeah, I think, being an individual that's somewhat politically incorrect and speaks my mind, I envisioned some headline at some point, but at this stage, you're good. You're fine. So good research.
Okay.
So how does that work? So Fortune Manning, so you just came in, how did you get the job, or how did you even think about law?
My father was a lawyer.
Yeah.
And so I was born and brought up in Fiji. My father was a lawyer. He became a magistrate, but he passed away when I was 9 years old. So he always sort of used to say that my son's going to be a lawyer. So that was always my aim, to become a lawyer. It wasn't until Form 7, and I still remember this. In Fiji, the Form 7 exam results, or all external exam results, are actually publicized. So the night before the results are published, it comes out in the national radio. So you sit there and you sort of wait for your school to be called, and your name's called, and your grades are told out.
Wow.
I'm sitting there. I had applied for law school in Waikato, and I needed 300 out of 400 to get into law school. And we did 5 subjects, and English plus the best 3 we counted. And maths wasn't my strong point, so I sort of disregarded maths quite a bit. So when my results were called out, I think I had 1 A and 3 Bs. And sort of the phone started ringing. People were like, "Oh, we heard your results. Why did they only say you had did 4 papers?" It was because if you failed a paper, it wasn't called out. So, but I just told everybody that I only did 4 papers, and that's what it was. But we did not know what the actual number was until you went to school the next day and had a look on the notice board. So I went to pick up my friend the next morning. We were going to drive to school to go look at the results. And his mother said, "So what are you doing after high school?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to be a lawyer. Everyone knows that I'm going to be a lawyer." She said, "What if you don't get into law school?" And that was like a light bulb moment. I was like, what if I don't get into law school? I had never thought of that. So I went and enrolled at the Fiji School of Catering. So wasn't going to be a lawyer, loved cooking. I was going to become a chef. So the results weren't going to be published until midday. So we drove to the next town where the Fiji School of Catering was, did my enrollment form, did all that, then came back, looked at the results. The numbers were on the board. I sort of calculated it. It came to 300. I calculated it again. It came to 300. And then my friend said, look, stop calculating. The final tally is at the end. It's already written there. So I got 300. I needed 300. I got 300.
Clutch.
So, yeah, got into law school in Waikato and decided to come to Waikato. Had applied to go to the University of the South Pacific also, but didn't really want to go to USB because after the first year you had to go to Vanuatu campus to finish your law. I thought if I have to go overseas, I'll come to New Zealand, not Vanuatu. But then I remember it was the week that I was going to come to New Zealand. It was the 14th of February 1998 that I came to New Zealand. It was my first time going overseas, first time on a big plane and all that. But on Monday, I received a letter from the USB saying that my enrollment was approved for law school in Fiji. And all that was done. So I went up to my mum and I said, look, I don't want to go to New Zealand. Don't want to leave home. Want to stay here. And she said, no, too late. That's what you wanted. We've paid for everything. You're going. And it was a hard time leaving home as a 17-year-old back then. My mum gave me a one-way ticket because she was afraid I'd sort of go back home, run away. And
one-way ticket, no money.
Yeah. So, and it was a sad time because when I came, it was on the understanding that I wasn't going to go back home in the holidays because my mother was a single mum and we didn't have that much money at that time. So I was sort of expected to work in the holidays and sort of save up some money because being an international student, paying international fees wasn't cheap. So I was leaving home for 4 years, for 4.5 years.
Yeah, wow.
But at that time, I wasn't going to live in New Zealand. I was coming here to do law. I was going to go back to Fiji, and I was going to practice over there and live my life over there. And as it turned out, I actually did go back to Fiji after I finished my law degree. Decided to go and live the life in Fiji. Went back, started practicing in Fiji. I was an insurance litigator in a small town called Ba. That's where I was brought up.
How small?
About 15,000 people.
Oh, that's decent. I was thinking, yeah.
No, well, the tallest building was 3 stories, right? So, like when I first came to New Zealand, I remember 14th of February, as I said, 1998. A cousin of mine picked me up from the airport. Everything was so new, I've never been on a plane, never been overseas.
Were you shaken when you got on the plane? Were you nervous?
I was excited and sad,
Sad, yeah.
Leaving my family. I have a younger sister, and she was quite sad. So there was a tinge of excitement with the sadness that I'm not going to be seeing my family for a very long time. But it started getting more and more excited. So they took me to their house. It was Eden Street in Papatoe. I still remember because the name Eden Park was quite big. So when I heard they lived on Eden Street, I thought it was near Eden Park. It was nowhere close to it. But went there and sort of had lunch and we hung out. And a friend of mine picked me up in the afternoon to take me around, the usual places, Mission Bay, K Road. That's sort of when people come from Fiji, you show them K Road because there's nothing like K Road in Fiji. But I was absolutely terrified by the sheer size of Auckland, by the motorways, cars zooming past each other at speed and all that. I was a small town boy, never seen all those things. And then the next day, my cousin drove me to Hamilton. And the whole time, so we're sitting in the car, I'm just wishing that Hamilton's not like Auckland, not big like Auckland. I just could not see myself living in Auckland. And I was so glad when I got to Hamilton. Man, it was at that time, Hamilton was really small, 110, 120,000 people in Hamilton at that time. So got to Hamilton. I saw all these vacancy signs everywhere, and I thought, oh, there's a lot of jobs here. Maybe I can get a part-time job, and it's going to be all good. I found out later on those were all motels. So I said, because I told my cousin, I was like, look, I mean, there's lots of vacancies around, so I might be able to find a job. He's like, no, you came down Ulster Street. That's all motels with vacancies in there.
Oh, bless. Wow.
But yeah, it was this innocent guy who just come from small town Fiji, and started living in Hamilton. Did my law in Hamilton. Did my profs in Hamilton. And did some part-time jobs, worked in an Indian restaurant, worked at McDonald's for a few years.
I got a day and then I got fired.
At McDonald's?
Yeah, I tried to change some things. Not a good thing.
Oh, look, I actually liked McDonald's. I mean, apart from a few niggly little things, we had this English manager who wasn't very fond of Indians. But I mean, looking back at it, shouldn't have put up with what I went through at that time, but you're a student, you need the job.
Yeah,
you just put up with things.
What did you sort of, or like, obviously, it's a divisive topic, but what were they doing that made you think that they weren't very nice, or if they?
Oh, look, I mean, it was direct things. It tell me that this is not your dairy. We don't do things like this. And
it's brutal and kind of funny. Like, it's fucked up. It's just kind of. That's why I'm laughing a little bit. I'm with you empathetically. Yeah. It's not your dairy. It was just a little left field. You know what I mean?
Oh, look, it's. I mean, the funny thing is, a lot of that went over my head because I come from Fiji. The first thing, we don't have dairies over there. We have milk bars.
Oh, yeah.
So the word dairy was foreign to me, and and the fact that Indians own dairies was foreign to me also. I hadn't really grasped that concept of that link between Indians and dairies. So it wasn't until later on I thought, shit, that was a bit racist, wasn't it? Or I talked to somebody and said something like that. So I was a bit Teflon to a few things he was saying because I was naive. I couldn't really understand the sort of the racist nature of it, or the humor behind it, and all that.
Okay.
But yeah, look, I mean, McDonald's was fun. It sort of it was a job. It paid at that time. It was ridiculously low, the minimum wage, so we didn't really get that much money. But it was good. I mean, we could only work, I think, 9 or 10 hours a week. It was ridiculous as international students.
Oh yeah.
So we didn't really work that much. But yeah, so went back to Fiji after finishing my studies, spent a couple of years in Fiji and decided, look, I like New Zealand, the faster pace of life, and came back to New Zealand. Sometimes now I wonder, I'm in Fiji. Yeah, it was slow pace, but life was very different. I mean, I had somebody who would carry my bags to court and do things like that. Over here, I'd be frowned upon if I asked somebody to bring me a cup of coffee regularly. Look, my secretary does that every morning. So,
so you just accept the frowns.
Yeah.
She willingly does it, chooses to, out of love for you.
She does. She does. In Fiji, life is very different. I mean, it's very colonial, and you sort of get to the office. Sorry,
you
get to the office, and your water jug's refilled, and there's a pot of tea on your desk and all that. But look, I mean, people need the job. And people are hired to do those jobs over there. For some reason in New Zealand, we think that it is a bit pompous to hire people to do a few things like this. It's like, well, why do you need somebody else to do this for you? Why do you need home help, or why do you need a gardener? Oh, that's a bit flash of you. But I mean, in a lot of countries and cultures, that's the way it is. You do have. I don't know what the PC word is, but it is. We used to call them house girls. They'd come in the morning, they'd do all the housework, and that's what. But that was their source of income.
You've just been cancelled, mate. You've just been cancelled. You used the wrong word. Fortune Manny coming down.
Well, I'm sure they call that still. I mean, in Asian countries, they're called home helps, and like sometimes. I talk to my Asian mates when we go there, and they say, "Oh, do you do your own cooking? Oh, do you do your own laundry?" I do my own ironing. Shit, that took the longest time this morning, ironing my shirt.
I feel like that. Like, I want to outsource that. As soon as I get in a better financial position, I'm just not going to do any washing ever again.
I do outsource it most times, but I find that I have to go and drop it off to the laundry. Very good laundry I've got, and then I have to pick it up. And the laundromat guy knows when I say to him I'll pick it up in the afternoon, that means a week later.
Yeah, you'd think they'd be like door to door, like you put in a bag outside, you leave it, they turn it up. You have an app, you scan your QR code to say that it's arrived.
You look at some things overseas, and you think, why can't we have that over here? I mean, you look at Mumbai, they have the tiffin delivery service. If you've never heard of it, you should Google it. It is one of the most amazing things in the world. They deliver millions of or hundreds of thousands of tiffins every day. So tiffin is a 3-tiered lunchbox.
Oh yeah,
right?
okay.
It's called a tiffin, I think, because of that. It's got a handle. It's basically a lunchbox, and so when you go to work in the morning, your better half at home would then prepare your lunchbox fresh, and sometime mid-morning, the tiffin collection guys are going to come and pick that up and deliver it to you in the office. Nice and hot for lunch. And they deliver hundreds of thousands every day. There's no app. There's no computer system. There's no records. And they lose like 0.1% a day or something like that. They don't lose it. They sort of deliver the wrong tiffin. And then they pick up the lunchbox and deliver it back home in the afternoon, I think. But it is one of the most amazing things that happens. We can't do it. We don't do it over here. But it happens, like laundries and all those things. You know what my pet hate is right now? I must be digressing a bit.
He digress.
My pet hate right now in New Zealand is that a lot of service places are 9 to 5. So I need a haircut. The barber's open 9 to 5 or 10 to 5. I'm at work. Don't open at 10. Open at 2. Open till 10 at night so that I can come and get a haircut. So I have to take time out in the weekends if I can't. I mean, I usually get quite bushy on my head because I go to the barber, I can't find time, and then it doesn't happen. I said, why are barbers open 10 to 5? Why is the shoe repair guy open 10 to 5? Why is the belt repair guy open 10 to 5? I mean, why is the mall only open late on Thursdays? Why is the mall open during like 9 to 5 or 10 to 5 when everyone's at work? Look, I mean, the majority of the people are at work. No one's going to go to mall when you're at work, apart from lunch. Open just before lunch. Open till a bit later. I just do not understand that. And I actually talked to my barber about it, and he said, look, I would love to do that, but people are so programmed in the 9 to 5 thing that no one comes in the evening. So he said he tried once, and he'd just be sitting there late and no one would come. So, but yeah, so decided Fiji was a bit slow, started looking for a job in New Zealand, and this is the funny bit. And while I was still in Fiji, I got a call from a recruiter. Said, we've got good things for you. You need to come in for an interview. I thought, shit. Oh, shit, can I say shit?
Yeah. You can say fuck too if you want.
I was like, shit, that's a score. I'm going to go. So it was December. I paid for a ticket, came to New Zealand, went for this supposed bloody interview at this recruiter's place. It wasn't a bloody interview. They just wanted to meet with me and fill out a few forms, and they said, oh, thank you. When we find something suitable, we'll call you. But I paid all that money to come all the way to Auckland from Nandi. That was my Christmas money. So that was a bit disappointing. I went back to Fiji and thought that didn't work very well. But I don't want to burn my bridges. I won't really say anything bad. And then I decided, look, it's hard to find a job from Fiji. So packed up, left. Coincidentally, came back to New Zealand on the 14th of February again. It was 2004 at that time. came back to New Zealand, and it was a Saturday again, because when I first came in 1998, it was 14th February, it was a Saturday. So when I saw that 2004, I'm thinking of going to New Zealand, 14th of February is a Saturday, I thought, look, this is destiny calling. This is meant to be. I'm going back. So got on a plane, came back. Wasn't that sad this time around like I was the first time. Got used to living with my mother. Or living without my mother. And so came back and went back to the recruitment company, said, I'm here, have you got anything? They had nothing. Started applying for jobs. And I had a good friend who was a client when we were in Fiji, Andrew Hooker, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago in an accident. He was a great lawyer. At that time, he used to be in-house in one of the insurance companies, and then he was one of the founders of Shine Lawyers in Auckland. Very good advocate for the people. And I used to act for the insurance company when I was in Fiji. Did some work with him, and he helped me with one of his good friends to find a job. It was a small firm out in Manukau called Woodrock, and worked there for 3 years. And towards the end of my 3 years, I got a call from this recruiter who had called me to New Zealand for the supposed interview. And she said, hey, just following up, have you found a job? We've got some good opportunities. I thought, here we go.
Another form.
What, do you think you've freaking been sitting around for 3 years not been doing anything? So
3 years.
I decided, look, I'm still looking for a job. I'll go for interviews. And I went for shitloads of interviews. Yeah. She would set me up for an interview. I'd go to that interview. I actually got offered a few of the positions.
Oh, yeah?
And I declined all of those offers because I wasn't looking for a job. And I just wanted to piss this recruiter off. Get back at her for freaking wasting my Christmas money all of those years ago. And I was like, you're not getting a commission, mate. You're not getting a commission from me anymore. And then one day she said, look, I've got a position at Fortune Manning. Do you like to go for that? I was like, yeah, I'll go for it. It was going to be one of those same things. I wasn't going to take the position, and I was just going to piss around. So I said, look, I'm in court on this day, and I'll come for an interview on that day. On the day I finished court, I wasn't feeling up to it, and I called and said, look, my court's cancelled. I can't come in. And so they rescheduled the interview. I thought, sure, that's good. So I finally went for an interview. They called me for a second. And the first interview, I sort of got interested. And then they called me for a second interview. I got interested. And then they made an offer. And I thought, no, I'm not taking this offer. So I'd run out of excuses for refusing offers. So I made an excuse that the money wasn't enough. And I thought they would say, what a prick. not giving him a job. He's freaking negotiating pay. But
it's Christmas money bonus.
Yeah, so they came back and put the money up a bit, and I thought, oh, that's a Christmas money back now. So I went back and asked for a car park, but they said no to the car park. The car park was a premium back then, also in Wyndham Street. But I took up the job. It was in the transport law division, and I thought, look, I was a civil litigator, and I thought, look, I've done a lot of transport work. I used to do a few things in the criminal courts in Manukau. So took up the job, went to Fortune Manning, started doing transport law, and realized that I did not know anything about transport law. I thought transport was traffic, and it wasn't traffic. Transport was totally different. So learned on the job, had good support around me, and kept doing things, and got offered partnership in 2012.
Wow,
yeah,
that's a long time.
Yeah,
Jeez, and you're still there. You got a car park yet?
Yes, got a car park after I became partner. But look, back then things were sort of, you got away with a lot more, like parking in client spots and sort of shifting around every time somebody complained and things like that. But now I'm a partner, I sort of see the junior lawyers sometimes taking up the client spot, and I think I should be the last person going and telling them off for doing that, because I used to do that myself. So I leave it to the other partners to do that.
Well, just on the... So I don't know much about lawyering. I've been in the court once. I trespassed at an abandoned mental hospital because apparently that was a good idea then, and they made an example of us because we thought it'd just be fun to go there. And that was my only experience. Judge didn't like me much. And then I got whatever it's called, clean slate or something. You don't get anything from it.
Yeah.
What?
Diversion.
Diversion, yeah. What's court like? What do you go on there? Is it like the movies? Do you wear wigs? Like how?
Look, you don't wear wigs in New Zealand unless it's a ceremony.
Oh yeah.
So wigs have become ceremonial to a large extent. Gowns you wear in the High Court or in the District Court. Gowns are only worn when there's a jury trial. I was always a big fan of that. The uniform, as I call it, that lawyers used to have. In Fiji, we used to have wigs and gowns and bibs. You had to wear a bib. You couldn't wear, in the High Court, you couldn't wear a tie to court. You had to wear a bib. I remember in my young days, because I practiced in Bar was a small town, so the High Court was in Lautoka, which is about an hour's drive away. So every Friday we had to go to the High Court in Lautoka. And one day we were running really late going to the High Court, and we got in, sort of the court had already started. Quickly put my gown on, put my wig on, jumped into court, and it was good old Justice Kishore Govind. He was a very well known judge in Fiji. The soccer stadium in my hometown was named after him, so very well known guy, and he was this little old guy sitting up there. When my matter got called, I stood up and I said, "May it please my lord," we used to call judges my lord over there, "May it please my lord, Khan appearing for the plaintiff." And he said, "I can't hear you, Mr. Khan." So, "May it please the Lord, Khan appearing for the plaintiff." I was like, "I can't hear you, Mr. Khan." So I thought, shit, this old man is getting really old. So the third time I went louder and he said, "Mr. Khan, there's nothing wrong with my hearing. Unless the attire in court has changed, I suggest you go take your tie off and put a bib on. And then I will hear you." And that was so bloody embarrassing. All these lawyers in court and everyone. But look, as they say, any marketing is good marketing. And I got taken to the Northern Club after by all the lawyers, and everyone was. Everyone knew me after that day. The guy who got kicked out of court for wearing a tie. But I sort of started practicing that era when the court attire was important.
Yeah.
Nowadays, when sometimes you go to court, you see lawyers are not even dressed appropriately or properly, and sometimes you see lay litigants or people who are appearing in court. Like I can picture you, Ryan. You must have been in a suit and a tie just to make sure you get that diversion, dressed up all nice.
Yeah, not flip-flops like now.
Yeah, so you have people who are sort of dressed up really nicely, and you can't tell the difference between who's a lawyer and who's not a lawyer. But judges wear a robe, and lawyers don't. Just have to dress properly. There's different courts. You have the family court, you have the criminal court, and you have the civil court. But you have all these other employment courts and all that. But the three main courts are the family, civil, and criminal courts.
What's it going to take for you to bring the bib back, just for once?
Look, if it was up to me,
you're allowed to.
Yeah.
You'd be judged for a different reason. Surely on your last day, bib it out.
Bib it out. Look, I don't think there's going to be a last day. But look, I'll look into it.
Send a selfie.
I'll look into it whether a tie can be counted as a bib, or what the rules say about wearing a tie. Because look, now you could actually wear cultural items on.
There you go.
And I still have my bibs.
Make it Fijian.
Yeah, I inherited my wig and gown and bib from my father. Cool. I have a very, very sentimental set sitting in my office of the old horsehair with the horsehair
Oh,
smells
wow.
still in it.
There's your story.
Yeah.
So just what court do you spend the most time in, or do you spend less time out of court? It sounds like you're helping business owners conceptualize and prevent
I
things.
spend a lot less time in court these days than I used to, but that is because nowadays I have very capable juniors who are able to handle most of the dates without me, and I usually run the trials when the trials come to it with my juniors. But trial dates are not easy to come. I mean, I've got trial dates in September next year. I've
Jesus.
got, a 3-week or 6-week trial starting in September next year. And that date I got last year. So in 2022, I got a date for 2024.
Wow.
Look, and the funny thing is, that was one of the reasons I left Fiji. Trial dates were hard to come by. Decisions took years to come out. You'd finish a case, and you wouldn't get a decision for a year or a year and a half or 2 years. I mean, I remember just before I left Woodruck Manukau, a decision for a case that I'd done in Fiji came out. And that was nearly 3 years over here for the decision to come out in Fiji.
Why? What leads to that?
Look, I think it is just the lack of judges. They don't have that many judges. There are a lot of cases. People in Fiji are very litigious, especially the part of Fiji that I come from. So there are a lot of cases. I mean, the case management system in Fiji was very old. And I don't know now if it's all computerized or what, but I remember, the old ribbon-tied files that you always had in Fiji, and you go into the registry and there's files and files everywhere.
Like our office.
Yeah, like our offices. And look, I think that's where I get the habit from. It's
Fiji.
It's Fiji. My hoarding comes from my mum, and but look, coming into your office today has made me feel so much better about myself.
I knew it.
Yeah.
There's actually, so I was watching this hoarding show, and there seems to be a correlation between loss and hoarding, because it maintains a sense of familiarity.
Yeah.
So my business associate, his partner, when he was in his 30s, she got diagnosed with cancer, given 6 months to live. She lived for 8 years, and every day with the mortgage and 2 kids, he had to come home and nurse her while she was bedridden. So he's a big collector of things.
Oh, yeah.
And it's this life coach lady came in here once, and she's like uncomfortable because she's like, his mind must be so busy.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting. That
is very interesting. That is very interesting that you say that. It is sometimes. Look, I keep a lot of things. Look, if I got stranded somewhere driving, I could live out of my car for a week at least. I've got enough shit in that car. And, I have been thinking about buying a new car for about 3 years now, 4 years. And the number of times I've gone to BMW and all these places, I must be on a blacklist in these places now. I like a car, but it's just too hard to change. I've got so much shit in the car. If I take it somewhere and tell a valet person, look, just take everything out, throw it away, I would not miss anything because I don't use any, apart from a jacket. I don't use anything from that car ever. But it's like, what if I do need to use it? You open up my pantry, I can cook you cuisine from 15 different countries with the ingredients I've got. Because I've got it if I need it someday. It's not like, today I feel like Thai, so I'm going to get some Thai ingredients and cook, and that's it. I've got Thai ingredients already in my pantry. I've got Cajun ingredients. I've got Mediterranean ingredients. But I've sort of been trying to throw things away or use things up and not buy it again. Works for a couple of weeks, and it all comes back. But look, I can now justify from what you've said. That's why I do that. It's about what if I need it. Look, and I get it from my mum. When my mum migrated to New Zealand, she bought like a container worth of her stuff with her. And some of the things she bought with her was like, why? You can get that in Bunnings for $5. That's like a 30-year-old lead wire. Somebody's going to get electrocuted.
Sounds my great auntie. She has a cloth. She's incredible. Like, she doesn't waste anything. She has a cloth that she bleaches and washes every day.
Oh, wow.
That's 20 years old.
I'm surprised the bleach hasn't spilled it.
But like, there's something to be said. Like, I've lived most of my life. If I can't carry it, I don't want to own it.
Yeah.
So a lot of my life was out of the backpack, just traveling around the world doing whatever. And so it's very hard. When I accumulate stuff, I have a mass exodus where I throw it all out. But then you see the extremes where, you know, people are consumeristic and collecting all these things, and then you have my great auntie that she values it and cherishes it. Whereas I don't do that.
Yeah.
Hence the attire.
Yeah.
I need to cherish and value myself as well.
Oh no, I mean, I've got a lot of things. I hate spending money, so much so that I don't think it is about sort of being stingy. I think it's more about making decisions as to where to apply your funds and how to apply it. I've been wanting to change my car for 4 years, and then I decide, look, I'm a single dad, and most of the travel I do is for work, and I've got this money sitting here. Why should I spend it on a car right now when I don't really need it? So I'll change it when it dies, and it's getting close to that now. But it's not a bad-looking car. It's not a very old car. It's not what I'd call a bomb.
Oh, yeah. I got one of those.
Except for...
Toyota Camry.
Have you?
And it's been in car crashes. That wasn't me because it got stolen.
Well, I've been hoping for somebody to crash into me.
So you have an excuse.
Now I've lost my insurance if somebody does crash into me. It wasn't pre-planned. But it doesn't happen, you know. It doesn't happen. I thought, sure, if somebody crashes into me, I'll get an insurance payout and for this bomb anyway. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, it's I sort of like, don't spend all that money. Don't. But it's some things sometimes you cherish because there's some history behind it, and you don't want to change it for that purpose. It's not because you don't want to spend any money. It's like my driver, you know. That's the only driver I can hit straight with. All the others, I'm going to hit all over the place, and my golf is defined by my drives. So I haven't changed it for a number of years, not because I don't want to spend the money. I got a $400 gift voucher for Remuera Golf Club from my ex-wife and my daughter for Christmas. So I was going to Thailand a few months ago, and I was going to play golf over there. I needed some new golf shoes because the last time I played golf was in Rotterdam, and after I played golf, I threw my shoes away because I could not be bothered going through customs over here and declaring dirty shoes and all that. And that shoe was quite old, so I threw that away. So needed new shoes. I thought, look, I need to use this voucher. So I turned up to Remuera Golf Club, try a lot of those shoes, and decide, okay, I'm going to buy this one. Give them my voucher, and they said, mate, this expired 2 years ago. When did you get it? I was like, I don't know. And they had a look at it, and they said, I got it in 2017. I said, look, there's no expiry date on it. So you can't tell me it expired. But they honoured the $400 voucher, which is good for them. And so 6 years later, it's come back on the books.
Thoughts on the best before date? Is it actually off?
Best before? No. No. Not at all. Look, I mean, if you want to be like that, best before, look, I'll give you a few addresses you can drop all the food to. But I've got things in my fridge that sort of expired 2 years ago, and they're actually better than they were before. Look,
cheese? Because you get penicillin as well as the added flavour.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would eat cheese that is after best before as long as it's not mouldy.
Cut the sides off.
That's
Man, you're a Rocky.
No, that's what I was going to say. Not as long as they're not mouldy. As long as I can cut the mould off.
Oh, yeah.
Then it's all good.
What's blue cheese?
Yeah, well,
see,
exactly.
It's just cheese at a different stage of its life.
Yeah, true. But look, in my fridge, I mean, it has to. The mold has to grow in a very controlled environment.
Yeah.
If you look at my fridge, and as I said, I mean, there are germs from all over the world. You know, you have the Thai germs, the Japanese germs, the Mediterranean
Yeah.
germs, the Fijian germs, a lot of Fijian germs.
Yeah.
And some of these germs don't grow good mold. So the mold that grows in my fridge is not very controlled. So I do need to cut that out.
What's the worst kind of mold? No, I'm just kidding. That's
No,
dangerous.
go on.
Well, you just listed all these different countries in terms of mold. I was just curious, have you found just through, experimental data, not projections or stereotype, have you found any sort of mold in particular that's more heinous than the others?
Look, I found that...
Don't answer that question.
No, but in all seriousness, the mold growth in New Zealand is the weirdest mold growth I've seen.
Okay, interesting.
It's really... In Fiji... It's sort of, when things go bad, it's gone bad.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Over here, it's like a garden growing on top of something. It looks beautiful. It doesn't smell bad. And you sort of question yourself. Is that meant to be? Is it not meant to be? My packet of Vogels I saw yesterday had gone all white on one side. And I sort of had to look at it a few times. Like, it wasn't, in Fiji, the smell comes with it. It's bad. But and the other thing I find funny in New Zealand, again digressing a bit, is you have lazy flies over here. We have lazy flies over here. You can actually swat a fly over here with your hands.
Yeah.
They're very slow. They sleep on the ceilings in the evening. In Fiji, they're like zooming past. You won't be able to touch any of them, and they don't sleep on the ceilings at night, mate. They're all hidden somewhere because they know if they can be seen sleeping, they'd be taken care of.
I would think I would hazard a guess to unpack your fly conspiracy theory. I suspect it's temperature related.
Could be.
Because if you freeze a fly, my mum used to freeze flies.
Yeah.
Sounds weird. She was a scientist, but still weird. She'd get a whole lot of old liver, put it inside a Coke bottle, and all the flies would congregate, and she can tell you something about something because of the flies. She also put grass in the fridge. She was an agricultural scientist, had a PhD. I still don't get why she had flies in the fridge. But that's slow as the temperature's slow. So I'm wondering if Fijian flies...
Because of the heat. It could be. Even in Australia, they're buzzing around.
They bite, they drink your blood.
Not the flies.
That fucking look like flies. Have you seen them, bro? The big thick-ass flies. Bro.
No, but yeah, look, you don't have to be an agricultural scientist to freeze flies. I've opened the fridge sometimes and had a fly sort of fly slowly out of it.
So we have a part owner at one of the largest, law firms in Auckland. It's up there. And we're talking about fucking flies and cheese. I feel like I'm doing a disservice to the audience members here.
Oh, look, I'm sure all my clients relate to it. Look, no matter how corporate you are, no matter what you do, life is still lived. You still have to clean your toilets and your bathrooms. And
not if you have a house girl.
Well, you don't over here. That's the problem. You don't.
Don't get you started, brother.
No, you don't. My mum offered to do my laundry, which is very nice of her.
My colleague offered to do my laundry because I wasn't ironing my shirts. But I felt that was a new low.
Is it a he or a she?
It's she.
Well, if she's looking for a job, you give her my card.
I think it was from a place of love instead of a need for income. But,
Well, I'm open to be loved also, my friend.
Speaking on that, okay, on the love part, and share what you feel comfortable or not. How do you navigate purpose and pursuing what you want in life whilst also navigating love for the people in your life?
Until very recently, I had a different perception of purpose and different perception of direction in life. Right? I used to think that you build your work and you work everything around it, and that's how it worked. And a lot of times you're busy. You can't do something because you're busy. I separated from my wife a few years ago. At that time, my daughter would have been about 7 or 8. And I changed direction. I thought, what is the purpose in life? One of the things I realized is that there's no such thing as busy. Busy is when you're doing something that is above the norm, right? So this is normal work. You've got too much on, so you're busy, right? Busy is not normal. Normal is normal. And I thought, I'm not busy because I'm always at this level. So that, for me, is normal. So busy cannot be an excuse for not doing something. And so I decided, look, I'm going to pick up my daughter from school. And that's what I do. And there's a set days that I pick up my daughter from school. I leave work at 3 in the afternoon, and then I will work in the evenings once my daughter's been settled. And that's what I started doing, and everything else fell around it. Everything else is done around it. I stopped doing a lot of the community work I used to do because I did quite a bit, both sort of social football and actual community work within the community, because I was very busy. And then when I sort of put this whole normal aspect of life to it, I could do everything I wanted to do because everything else falls within it. And I think now I have realized that if you want to do something, you just have to do it, and everything else needs to fall around it. And it does. Because before I separated from my wife, I was too busy to do things. I was too busy to pick up my daughter. I was too busy to go somewhere in the weekends. I was too busy to do a lot of things. Now, okay, I need to do that. I will do that, and everything else then falls around it. Community is important, and doing community work, giving back to the community is important. And I'll be selfish enough to say that it does have its own benefits in marketing. You know, people know you, things come out of it. When I started doing my community work, it was for the love of soccer, right? And I got involved in Mangere United and a few other ethnic soccer teams, and it was for that. And slowly my practice built up, and my love for football increased, and my involvement in football increased. It was not until recently when I sort of sat back and I was thinking about marketing and talking to some young associates in my office that I realized that about 80% of my work somehow goes back to Mangere United and my soccer involvement. You know, somehow it's either a 1 degree a connection or a 2 degree connection or more, but somehow goes back to that. I didn't set out to do that in that way, but it's the relationships that you build from these things that really come out and develop into other things. So if you set out to do these things as marketing, you won't enjoy it, because community work is hard work because there's different personalities. You're not getting anything out of it, so your patience level is a lot lower. So it is hard work. But if you just go there for the love of it and you do it, I've done a sort of provision of foods for the homeless and football, and heavily involved in sort of the Muslim organizations around the country. And if you do it for the love of doing it, not expecting anything in return, you'll enjoy it. But everything will fall around it. You know, my daughter's 11 now. Last week, and she fends for herself a lot more than she used to. So I get more time too. So
yeah. I mean, I always wonder that. It's 9:50. Conscious of how hectic your normal life is. I can't think of anything more important than the people in your life and your purpose. And if your purpose is coming at the expense of people in your life, I mean, I find being busy is a state of mind. Same with stress. It's like the experience is tough, but only in that moment.
You know, I was with some friends in Bangkok, and we did the river cruise around the canals, and my friend Heather from Vancouver said something about the way people lived. One thing I realized is that those people are not poor. It's not poverty that they live in. That's the way of life. And a lot of times we think about poverty and money being the sort of the road to come out of something, the road to happiness. And if you don't have money, or if you don't have a nice house, or if you don't have a nice car, then you're living in poverty, which is not really true. So these people are busy. These people have jobs. It's just the way they live and the amount that they need to be happy. And that sort of made me realize, you could, not everybody who lives in a tin shack is living in poverty. Some people do that by choice, and we shouldn't. And that's sometimes us living in a Western world look at some countries and say, oh, they're third world. People are living in poverty because look at their housing, but they're happy. They have a bigger sense of community and sometimes, look, I ask myself the question, why did I move to New Zealand? I was in Fiji last year, and I was sort of in Nandi, and it was just after 5, and people were coming out of the offices, going home, and nobody was in a rush to get home. People were coming out in groups, talking to each other, being friendly, walking slowly to the bus stop. There was a bit of traffic here and there, but people were in no rush to get home. And sort of I realized at that time, in Auckland, we're always in a rush to get home. It's 5:30, it's 6 o'clock. Get in the car, drive home. What's the traffic doing? We're always in a rush. We're not taking our time to enjoy life the way that it should be enjoyed.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I think a lot of people I come across are living a transitory life. So they're living a life between moments, and they're using the pursuit of money as the goal, but in reality it's the pursuit of status and acceptance from others, but then we'll never achieve it.
Yeah.
So I think there is, from the traveling that I've done, there's something inherently beautiful about the community in places like that, like Thailand, or if you're walking through certain suburbs and certain areas, and I remember I went to a part of Thailand where there's no terrace.
Yeah.
And I didn't know any Thai. I was just like Sawadee Cup and Aroi, like delicious and shit. I try my best. And they're like, what food do you want? I'm like, Aroi food. I want delicious food. And then they pointed, and then they had, from what I could gather, next to nothing. And they gave me like free food, like a banana, and we were making jokes. And they seemed to have this beautiful community. And then I would hear of people coming from the Philippines in here and missing that component in life.
Yeah. Yeah, look, right now we've got a cost of living crisis in this country, and everything is expensive, and we sort of, and it is. I'm not saying it's not, but as I said, in Bangkok, I could still go out on the street and have a very hearty meal for under 10 New Zealand dollars. I personally think that some people are taking the piss.
Oh, you God.
Oh, look, Countdown's profit levels haven't dropped. If you and I are getting hit in the pocket, why aren't these corporates being hit in the pocket? Why are the profit levels still the same? If there's a recession, is there a recession for the common man only? Is there no recession for the corporates because their profit levels remain the same or bigger in terms of the banks? And I don't understand that. Today, this morning, I was reading in the newspaper, Maersk has come out and said that our recovery in terms of freight movement has to be better. It's not as good because a lot of people are still using COVID as a bloody excuse. What's caused the delay? COVID. COVID? Really? COVID is old news. We need to get back into recovery mode. Yeah. But people are taking the piss. Prices have gone up. And when the cost of things come down, those prices are not going to come down because people now know that they can sell things at a certain price and people are still buying it. How is the cost of living going up only for you and me when everything is passed on? Everything is passed on. If the profits were going low, corporates were in trouble, and they're saying there's real bad shit happening right now, right, in the corporate world. Corporates are laughing to the bank. The profits are the most there's ever been. There's something called corporate responsibility. When COVID happened, lockdown happened, all the supermarkets stopped their sales. There was no meat week at Pack and Save, and the stick man was nowhere to be seen, and all that stuff. The prices were as high as it could be. Everyone was making money at the time. The supermarkets were making more money than they ever have. I mean, fucking toilet paper was going out the window. I mean, obviously people haven't heard of water in this country.
The old bidet.
Toilet paper. I still have flour for another 2 years. I can make as many rotis or breads as I want. I'm guilty of that myself, like stocking up.
Yeah, but you're a hoarder. You got 6 different
and bottles and bottles of water. When Cyclone Gabriel was coming, I was all stocked up.
Yeah.
I've been stocked up for 2 years. But look, I mean, where is giving back to the community? And I think we need to start calling this, a lot of times people are afraid to say it. A lot of people are thinking it. People are not saying it. Why are these corporates making money? Oh, look, lowest price guarantees, price rollback, and all that bullshit. Look, it's bullshit. You go to the supermarket, it's bullshit. It's those guys are putting their prices up. Well, they're saying, the cost of everything is more. Well, it is, but you don't have to maintain the same level of profits. The banks. The other thing I don't understand.
You're off.
You're the financial guy. You tell me why are we giving our money to in higher interest rates to the bank, and it's not coming back into the community if we want to curb spending? I don't understand this. If you put the tax rate up, if you put the GST up on luxury items, the things that I want, the people are going to not buy those. People who want to buy it will have to pay the extra tax. Tax comes back into the economy, helps the communities. Right now, we're saying, look, and this is not even, this is compulsory, because if you've got a mortgage, you have to pay higher interest rates. So we are saying we're going to make the banks earn a lot more money to curb spending, but it's not coming back into the community. Fuck the community. The community is getting fucked. People's mortgages are coming off fixed now.
Yeah, no,
and all that. And the banks are making $7 billion?
Yeah, this could be a ploy for you running for office. It sounded a little bit the common man while you're in your suit. That's a little bit of a push, though.
No. Look, I mean, suits are cheap in Bangkok. So
come on! You're a part owner, unfortunately. You're around the common man, but I don't know. You'd be in the top 1%, wouldn't you?
Well, look, I mean, you would be in the top 1% also, wouldn't you?
And charisma. No. I got a personal loan and I'm about to run out of money.
I think the thing is, I mean, we have to consider ourselves lucky in this country. There are a lot of places in the world where if you don't have a job, if you are unable to work for health reasons, you will starve to death. You have to beg on the streets and all that. We are lucky over here that we have a system that is able to help out those people in need. And we need to be careful that is not abused, because everyone knows that people are taking the piss out of that too.
Are you running for office?
No,
I'm
not.
Why not? Come on, brother.
Look, I mean, yesterday the figures came out where the government is sort of lying to us about people being on benefit and all that. People are now supposedly on benefit on an average for 19 years. I mean, what the heck is that, mate? I mean, we need to help out those in need, and we need to stop those people who are taking advantage of the system.
How? What are you doing? My business associate says a hand up, not a hand out.
Well, look, I mean, when we were growing up in Fiji, they used to say, give the fisherman a net and he'll feed his family forever. If you give him... and that's what we need to do. But see, it is easy to say, give somebody a handout, but there are people in situations where they can't work, medical reasons, and things like that, and you have to help them out, right? We need to help parents out so that they can bring their kids up until they're able to go to school, and parents can sort of look after their kids. I think it's important for child development. But then we have a lot of young people on the benefit, and that is not right. We've got a labour shortage in this country. I'll give you an example. I was in Attire. This is a number of years ago, and we were doing a roadshow seminar series up north, and was talking to somebody, and they said, "Look, there's no jobs." And I said, "Look, I was in Kerikeri, and they really needed fruit pickers, and they actually have a bus that goes from here to Kerikeri every morning." And the guy said to me that they pay something like $4 an hour, $3 an hour. I thought, no, that cannot be right. That cannot be right. And he said, no, I'm not working for $3 an hour. It wasn't until a bit later that I realized that $3 an hour was the difference between what he's getting on a benefit to what he's going to get when he's working. And that was the mindset, that he wasn't working for $15 an hour. He was working for $3 an hour because right now he's getting 12. And that is what we need to change. Look, there's too much spin. And in politics, everyone's spinning. I think when you go over 40, like when I was young, I wanted to change the world. I was going to be the first Indian Prime Minister in Fiji.
Oh, Fiji, there is a desire.
All that. Look, I mean, they
you already made Dad proud. Now let's fucking be Prime Minister. What do you think?
No, that was Fiji. and then I came to New Zealand. It was a different world. And English wasn't my first language. And, English was my third language. And you sort of find it difficult to gel in. But you still have the desire to change the world. It's like when you're watching a horror movie and you sit there and say, look back, look back, look back. Why didn't she look back? Why didn't she look back? She should have just looked back. And I think once you sort of cross 40, you look at everything and you'd say, that's not right. They're just spinning bullshit over here.
Yeah.
I mean, who's believing it? But look, there's shitloads of people believing that. There's so much happening. I mean, look, I was going to vote Wayne Brown. I forgot to put my vote in the mail, and then I was glad I didn't put my vote in the mail. But he's come out and said this thing about cones. And really, somebody's taking the piss on the cones right now.
The cones? What? Is people stealing cones?
No. The amount of cones people have bought and put around the city that is unnecessary. It's just amazing. We don't need all these cones, but we are paying for those bloody cones to be there. I mean, I come down Par Road, Queenstown Road every day, and somebody is absolutely taking the mickey out there by the warehouse right now. They've had cones there for 3 weeks. They've closed one side of the road, repaired that, closed the other side of the road, repaired that, and then closed this side again and gone that side. So why have you closed it? We've been using it for the last week. Now you've done this side, you've done this side. Just open it up. No.
You're running at 60. I can see it.
Mate, you're going to get me back, aren't you? This is going to be to take you from the top 5% into the top 1%.
Yeah, I'm going to take all the credit for you becoming Prime Minister. Yeah. Well, it's 10:04. There's a lot there. I think just on that, the people on the benefit, I think there is a lot of inertia and resistance to change. There's a good example where a doctor told these people, hey, if you don't change your habits, you're going to die in the next, say, few years. 10% changed. 90% didn't do shit.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing about humans is how can you ask a line of questioning that leads to their own realizations to encourage them to make a change. For you, a few years ago, you had a really hard moment and you reflected, am I busy or should I live a normal life and spend time with my daughter? So there's moments like that, and if you can be the catalyst for that change for others.
Yeah, and I think leaders should stop sort of for their own benefit pushing things on the new generation. I mean, we have this sort of victim mentality.
Yeah.
You know,
I got a good one.
and people are a lot of leaders in the community sort of go out and it's like, oh, you're lower socioeconomic and nobody cares about you and you're always going to be like that, and these children grow up listening to that. You know, I'm growing up in this area and I'm not going to be working in Queen Street and this is what I'm growing up for. We need to sort of stop that. Everyone's equal. Everyone's got equal opportunities. We had John Key, who came out of the state houses in Christchurch and became Prime Minister of the country. And that is what is possible. You know, that should be the kind of mentality. And I always take, like I said before, I go back to the Indians who were taken away from India. To work in places by the British. You know, people were taken from India to go to Fiji. Well, Fiji was 3 hours away by boat, and it was really easy work, sitting on the beach, and it was going to be beautiful. 3 months later, they got dumped on this island, working 15, 16 hours a day and not good conditions. But we don't look back at that, you know, where we have grown from there. The Indians in Fiji have grown from there, and that's the same all over the world. And that's where it should be, you know. History is history, embrace history, learn from it, and let's grow from there. That's what needs to be. You were telling me a story about the victim mentality.
Yeah, I was saying I find victims incredibly frustrating because I play victim often. It's just quite an interesting projection of them. But yeah, I think that there's a study they did with a teacher. It starts with P. It's this Perla effect, Pagilo, something like that. And they lied to this teacher. They said, "Hey, these students are really good," but they weren't. Their marks weren't good. Yeah. But then that student became really good. And I think don't underplay the impact of either labeling a person as a victim or labeling a person that they're not going to achieve anything. And being a turning point in their life, being like, hey, I know you've done these horrible things, or I know you're at this horrible point in your life, but there's something about you, you know. And I think that can do a lot for people. So what's your closing remarks as you go to run for Prime Minister of Fiji? Or can you still do it? You can.
No.
Oh, you're a citizen now?
A full citizen. Lost my Fijian passport a few years ago.
Could you marry a Fijian and get a green card and swap it back?
No, I can still apply for a Fijian passport.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, look, I mean, New Zealand is home now, and it has been home. I've lived more for my life in this country than I did in Fiji.
What party would you run for if you had to? Would you start a new one, and what would your slogan be?
No, look, well, stop the bullshit should be the slogan.
Stop the bullshit.
So, I mean, look, we need to stop the bullshit. I mean, look, I'm not a lefty. I'm not a lefty at all. But I'm pragmatic, you know. I mean, I shift from national to ACT, and what's necessary when it is necessary. But I would never run for the Labour Party. That I can say. I might go with Winston someday, but but no, I don't think politics is for me. I'm just sometimes a bit too blunt. I'm not PC. No. I've got this term PCBS.
PCBS, yeah. Okay.
So there's no PC bullshit with me. You know, if it's green, it's green. If it's red, it's red. You know what it is, it is. It's like I don't know. I was about to say something that would have got me into a lot of trouble.
Well, if anyone wants some commercial advice, I'll leave you a link in the description. But thanks for coming on.
All right. Thank you for having me.
It's all right, bro.